So, chaos. That's pretty crazy, right? One guy decides he's sick of being an endless war machine's pawn, links up with a horrifying god or four that feed on emotion, and now a hive city of 90 billion people is drowning in pus. And that's just another Tuesday in the ever-changing machinations of the chaos powers of the warp. But what is all that? To what end does something like Nurgle's invasion of Tertium serve? Why do humans serve chaos, and what role do they play? How does the warp itself relate to any of this? From the warp we were formed, and to the warp we shall return. Let's examine the multi-layered burrito that is the warp, chaos, and humanity. I'm going to start out by trying as best I can to define the warp. The warp, also called the immaterium, the Sea of Souls, and other poetic metaphors that vaguely sound like the inside of a cheesecake factory, is chaos. Not the actual chaos gods or forces of chaos themselves. It's bigger, more important, and more intangible than that. The warp is chaos in the sense that it is a completely non-physical reality latent to our own. It's a psychic sea of violent eddies with no structure or true form. In our reality, people muse about the nature of death and what happens to our consciousness after we die, because energy cannot be created or destroyed, but merely change forms. In the 40k universe, they have the answer. Where humans are concerned, all souls are created from and return to the warp. There is a boundary between physical reality and the immaterium. Because the warp is completely psychic and non-physical, and reality is a purely physical experience, the two parallel planes of existence can't naturally interact. Conscious beings of each realm can't even perceive the other except for specific circumstances that allow for a hole to be punched in the barrier between the two. A mortal soul is a piece of warp energy that is able to have a presence in the physical world by being safely contained inside a body. It's anchored into reality, but it is still part of the Great Sea of Souls. And since these living souls still exist as part of the warp, actions and feelings of mortals feed back into the psychic sea and manifest within it even while you're still alive. When you die, unless you're a powerful psyker or similarly extraordinary person whose soul was so strong it maintains its cohesion, your soul dissolves into the powerful vortex of the warp. And at best, all that will be left of your individuality is a distillation of the most powerful emotions and beliefs you felt throughout your life. And you remember how living in the 40k universe sucks and is generally a horrifying tragedy cocktail on the daily? Yeah, there's a reason why none of the Chaos Gods are hug bunnies that shoot beams of sunshine. These powerful emotions and vestige souls drift through the seas of the immaterium aimlessly until they find other manifestations of similar energy and beliefs. These sympathico-psychic energies begin to coalesce together and form a great garbage patch of overwhelming emotion. Then these lumps of specific emotional energy continued to grow until they were strong enough that the psychic manifestations that matched their vibes began to be pulled to them magnetically instead of aimlessly drifting, and eventually they grew to the point of sentience. This is roughly how the four Chaos Gods were born. There's Tzeentch, the god of change, representing the human desire of knowledge, ambition, and manipulation. Khorne, the blood god, a manifestation of war, wrath, hatred, and also strength and honor in combat. Slaanesh, the youngest god, born from a space elf orgy that got way out of hand, and the dark god of excess, pleasure, and perfection. And of course for you Darktide players, our boy Nurgle, the chaos god of decay, despair, and the inseparable cycle of life and death. Now, since these gods are conscious manifestations both of and living within the warp, they need more of the same psychic energy that formed them to maintain their existence, which is a fancy way of saying that they eat mortal souls and emotions.
If you don't have freshly harvested human ambition, store-bought is fine.
Sir! Question for you, sir. If the ruinous powers of chaos draw strength from mortal emotion, and the infinite contrivances of the dark gods originate many of mankind's hardships and result in powerful transcendental energies that feed them, why humies not close off from warp? Great question, Ogren. The physical body and non-physical soul of most mortals can't be separated without resulting in death. If the warp was closed off to humanity, people would immediately die or go comatose from having their soul removed, since the soul is warp energy that is still part of the immaterium but anchored into the physical realm by way of being contained in a body. Severing the warp would also mean losing faster than light travel, which admittedly is much less of a concern if you're dead, but nevertheless, it is still an important consideration because the connection of humanity amongst its colonized planets is very dependent on warp travel. Because the concept of distance doesn't really exist in the immaterium, ships capable of warp travel punch a hole in physical reality to access the warp. They then ride the eddies of the shifting vortex to the closest approximate location correlated in real space, punch a hole in unreality, and bada bing bada boom! A journey that would have taken normally hundreds of years at sublight speeds is now more like a ride in a self-driving car across the country. Except instead of across the country, you're driving through literal hell. Yes, that was admittedly a very watered down version of what warp travel is. Honestly, it's a topic that deserves its own video for another day. Humanity can't exist without the warp, and the dark gods in the warp can't exist without humanity, putting them all into this sick, abusive cycle of never-ending strife. So then, why do humans turn to chaos and become a part of their cults? Well, chaos cults grow a lot like real cults do today. Let's pretend you're the average civilian. You work a menial, thankless job, the impact of which you never get to see. If you live in a hive city, you are likely living in a lower slum where everything, even the water you drink, is filthy and uncared for. This is the life your parents lived. This is the life their parents lived. This is the life your children will live. There is no future, no hope, no joy. To question anything or express a lack of fulfillment to the wrong person could result in suspicion toward you, re-education, or most likely, death. But deep down, you really do want more. And then you meet a like-minded person who also wants more out of life. This person tells you all about what they're doing to get more out of their existence, feel alive, feel empowered, and invites you to come spend time with them and their like-minded friends. You're welcomed with open arms. It's not a trick. No Inquisition agents burst in to arrest or kill you. You just genuinely have a good time. You keep spending time with these people. Things start to get a little weird over time, like the occasional demon showing up for book club night, but everyone is in good spirits and you're already in this deep, so you don't say anything. The next thing you know, you've spoken to the cult magus's demonic familiar and bartered your soul to the service of a chaos god in exchange for the mutations that are their physical gifts of empowerment they're passing out. This week, it's tendrils with suction cups that can see 5 minutes into the future of whomever they touch, ripped pecs, and for some reason, 3 extra buttholes. Chaos offers mortal man the impossible, the allure of a better life out from under the callous thumb of the Imperium, but delivers only a twisted version of that promise of hope that suits their needs, while drawing power from those fooled into their service and culminating in consuming the victim's soul. They're used as pawns by the dark gods in their power struggle amongst themselves. Nurgle, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and Khorne are a lot like bickering siblings fighting over their favorite toys, and each one of them is trying to gain the ultimate upper hand to destroy the others. Of course, this would destabilize and destroy the warp itself, killing all of them, so when one ruinous power gets too uppity, the rest join forces to smack them down, and the great game for supremacy continues. Chaos cults play a major role in this struggle because incursions and sieges into the real world are a consistent way for the gods to spread their influence and create strong emotional reaction within mortals that feeds their strength. The human worshippers of their god might do something as obvious as spreading a horrifying disease and turning unwilling victims into zombie-like forces. Or it can be as subtle as traders of exotic goods and services bringing powerful drugs into a population, and the citizens slowly slip into idleness and excess before they even realize they're in the clutches of Slaanesh. Psyker cultists can punch a hole into reality and summon a demon of a chaos god, which then goes on to corrupt mortals. The different ways humans can fall to and spread the influence of chaos is as unique and varied as individual people themselves. There isn't one specific blueprint, which is why the nature of chaos and the threat of heresy is so serious to the Imperium. When the simple act of just trying to seek comfort in life slips so easily into demonic ritual and slaughter, every single person is a time bomb waiting to explode into damnation. Keep your mind closed, live for the Emperor, die for the Emperor. there's nothing more that you could want. Thanks for watching! What ruinous power of chaos do you think you'd fall to? Or are you a loyalist to your core who won't stand for such heresy? Drop into the comments and let me know. Until next time, I'd like to formally invite you to come join me in purging heretics. Join me live Thursdays from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time on Twitch to hang out, play some Darktide together, talk about theories, and chat about 40k lore. The link to my channel is in the video description below. I hope you come join me against the Darktide.